pedestrian core of Ahmedabad, is the historic core of Ahmedabad. So just to understand this core, this could be similar to a Kulaba Square outside Crawford Market, buzzing with a lot of commerce and vehicles. And as we know, the Indian historic cities were never built for vehicles. And being an architecture student, we learn all this interesting concept of pedestrianization, city for people. But when you actually go there and start building, things never happen. And throughout my experience, I have been working closely with chief ministers, CEOs, IS officers. So when you go and talk to them, listen, why can't we build something for pedestrians? No one says no. All of them are like, yes, we know all these concepts are true, but do the citizens really want it? So that's where my entire agenda lies about. Next. So for example, this is a typical street in the old city of Ahmedabad, where the biggest problem is parking. And that takes away 25% of the land, which leaves absolutely no space for people to walk. And then what happens? So if you see all our guidelines, all our regulations, they are more towards parking. So if there is more issues towards traffic, there is more congestion, what do we ask? We ask for more roads and more parking. So what does parking do? It attracts more cars. So my entire issue was about we as citizens fail in asking things from the government. Government is always there to give what we want. We have elected them. They are our elected representatives, right? So then the biggest problem what lies about is what we ask. So as an urban designer, what we did is we marked exactly how the space is being used. And if you see, the car, for a driver, there was only 35% of the space for driving. So, and for the people, it was actually less than 2% of area. But if you see, if I ask any of you, the major problem which we face in Bombay is traffic, right? And what do we ask if there is traffic? More flyovers. But so if I make you understand, like tomorrow most of us are fighting fatness, obesity. What do we, so to solve obesity, do we solve it by wearing loose pants? As you grow, as you buy more loose pants, does it cure obesity? No, right? Same thing. So for more cars, we ask for more flyovers and we widen the roads. What does it do? It eats away the footpaths. So what does it, then where do those pedestrians walk? They walk on the carriageway. It creates more conflicts, and that is what creates traffic. So, and who has asked for those big roads? Pedestrians. So the thing is, what are we asking? Why can't pedestrians ask for footpaths? Why can't pedestrians ask for better public transport? And one of the most interesting numbers to give you, in Bombay right now, the two big projects that we are talking about are the Trans-Harbour Link and the coastal roads, right? So we are asking for better roads, we are asking for better vehicular infrastructure, but do you know how much percentage of vehicle owners are in Bombay? Any guesses? 50, 20, 45, 60? Yes, the answer is only 8%. And you know how many percentage of pedestrians are in Bombay? We all are pedestrians because we all have to walk at least to our car. But have we all 100% come down and asked government for better footpaths? Our code state 1.8 meters as a minimum footpath. And so, for example, just to give an idea, you know how roads are widened? There is a PCO unit given to a car. So once you see the peak hour traffic, you divide it by, you do certain arithmetic and you come down, okay, this is the width required, and that's how the width is provided. Such things are not mandatory for a footpath. If that thing is done for a footpath, a vehicle can actually pass very smoothly on a carriageway by reducing the conflict areas. No one does that. So that's how the entire design actually worked. So when, just go back again. So if you see, right now there is absolutely no pedestrian area, and the hatch in between is, the hatch in between is, this is not working. Okay, it's okay, but you can figure out the hatch, right? So that's the only carriageway. Next. So here, if you see that maroon part, we have only taken away the parking part and reorganized the spaces for the vendors and pedestrians. So what happens? The conflict area decreases, therefore reducing congestion, and vehicles and the pedestrians both coexist happily. Next. So some of our views. So this is how it exists today. So if you see even vehicles, vehicular people, the car people are having issues and pedestrians are finding their way. Next. The carriageway has been retained and the parking has been taken away and that space has been given for people. So where has this parking gone? We are saying that Sulakshana ma'am was talking about Yangel. Yangel is one of the biggest promoter in saying a government is not supposed to provide you with parking. When we as people buy AC, do we ask for free electricity? No. So then if you buy a car, who has given you right to ask for free parking? That's a luxury that government is giving you at ₹5 per hour. So that doesn't strike, right? So we have found derelict plots in the abutting zones that provide as off-street parking for these vehicles and also disincentivize parking norms in this area. So therefore, to promote more pedestrians. So one thing that we come across in designing these areas are, this mentality of going by a bike, buying something and going away. So when we had the stakeholder conversations, the owners were like, why will people come if there are no cars? So if you see, there would be a certain conflict for some months or maybe a year or two, but after a while, people actually actually buy where there is most walking space. Example, your malls. You park, and then you walk for 2 hours, do your shopping, and mostly impulsive shopping, and then you come back. So more your pedestrian area, more it leads to your better commerce. So that's how pedestrianization, it does not only help you as a human being for your health, but also to your commerce and to the city as a whole. Next. So the drawings and the designs that you see, which was taught to me as an architect, as an urban designer, took only 6 months of my time. And I'm still working on this project in my 4th year in WRI. So my job here was to convince everyone in the realm. So how do we start as an NGO? So as an architect, as students here, no one has heard of, architect going and working in an NGO. So what do we do? First, we had this kind of a visioning workshop where we called all experts. Even experts have their own conflicting opinions. So we call them someone to come up with one design, lay down principles. Once that has approved, we designed and we had conversations with the commissioner, deputy commissioner, IS officers to go ahead with the design. Then in Ahmedabad, we even got the commissioner to walk with us on the streets. How many times have you taken a stroll with your commissioner in your bazaar? So that happened, and where she actually felt. So what we did is, in one of our projects in Mumbai, MIDC area, we actually told the commissioner that walk with us on the footpath, and the number of times you have to walk down on the carriageway because of certain occasions, maybe a pothole or something, that many times you have to realize the seriousness of making this pedestrianization. Then the last 2 pictures are one of the most important events of my life. So we started in 13, and in 2016 is a time when all the people, all the locals, they agreed to this project. So what we did is we picked a few champions in the locality who would understand this. So there was one gynec doctor. I used to sit with him every once in a month, explaining all the jargons that I learned in my school, like this is what is more important. So what happens is we as educated people, not just as architects, we know all this, right? Car is bad, it's pollution. Driving a car is like smoking a packet of cigarettes every day, even if you are a smoker or not. So we all know all these concepts, but what happens when we have to imply it? When I say, oh, from tomorrow your road will be pedestrianized and you will be forced to take a public transport, you'll be like, oh no, not my street, maybe next street. Who are we? Armchair activists. So to get all this together, to say, oh no, but if you do this, you will get that, and that is your health, and that is also an increase in commerce. So this incentivization took me 3 years to convince, and that's how this day happened. And this last May 26th was a day when the mayor, the commissioner, the other government agencies, SEPT institutions, builders, private developers, and the locals themselves came and convened and decided, let's go and let's pedestrianize the historic core of Ahmedabad. And that's how this project happened, and that's what my role was, to convince. Next. to move a level up, the project was appreciated so much. And I would say what it did is it gained an ownership. The people started saying, we belong to the city and we love to pedestrianize and we love to walk. And with that, Ahmedabad has now recently bagged nomination in UNESCO World Heritage City status. India has so many UNESCO monuments, but not a single UNESCO city. It's sad, right? And so in last 2 years, Mumbai, Delhi, and Ahmedabad had submitted their city nominations, and Ahmedabad is on a final list. It hasn't secured the nomination yet, but this project helped Ahmedabad to at least come up to that level. Next. The second project that I'll be showing you will be in Greenfield area called Naya Raipur, the new capital of Chhattisgarh. Next. As you see, so this is how I started my major work where I started working as an urban designer. This city looks like Mars. There is nothing around. This picture was in rainy season where you see some green, otherwise it's completely red. Just a personal quote. So being a woman, and when I entered this field, when I joined WRI, I was just 26. And I don't know whether I'm happy or sad or whatever, but I'm the only person in my entire organization at a national level where my organization sends me to different cities every year to convince. It's not a guy, there's no seniors, only me. So there are people, men and women alike, they like to be in their cities and work. And I mean, it has its own thing, right? But for me, they have always sent me, so anyone who knows me know that, like, this year I'm in Bombay, last year I was in Delhi, before that I was in Ahmedabad, before that I was in Chhattisgarh. So every year, it's a new address for me. So this thing was something so weird that in a government office, everyone used to talk in Bhojpuri. And I was like, stop. I mean, it was very difficult for me to control my laughter because being from Bombay, our Hindi is horrible. And with that, it is Bhojpuri Hindi. And your all documents are in Bhojpuri Hindi, and you have to understand and then do it. So it was a weird gamut for me to work. So that's how this project started. Next. So again, so what we did is we had a workshop with the NRDA officials. So this is the deputy manager. Then what we did is we explained to him some examples, some best practices, some ideologies of how do you do cities for pedestrians. And these designs are done by these people themselves. That included NRDA officials, students, architects, private developers, even housing boards. And then after these designs were done, so they were owned by the people. So when they can do such organic designs, but on the board we see something which is very 90 degrees, very Corbusier city, which is actually highly criticized. Then going ahead, the same designs we actually said, so these are the designs done by you, so let's build it. And so my job was to again take those papers and convince every person. So something like I would go to a housing board and say, listen, so we want safe cities, right? So did you know the Nirbhaya incident could have been avoided if we would have mixed uses at the edges? No one thinks about it, right? So also we are ourselves to blame for such incidents. To help build safe city, we design gated cities. Why? So these are the gaps that we are lacking. So we know the concerns, but we don't know how to address. And sometimes we know how to address, but we take this one step behind saying, but let me not do that compromise. Let other person do that compromise. So that's where the entire issue happens. So this is how the rest of the city looks like. For example, for this project, I had to do this design 9 times just so that I could convince that this high street buildings would have commas below, and it would have HIG, MIG, and LIG units in one single building. It sounds good in academic, but when you go and talk to housing boards, they will be like, but the rich people do not like to stay where the poor people are. The middle class people do not like to stay where there are shops below. And everyone wants to stay near to the lake. But the lake area is very expensive, so we cannot have affordable housing. And in academics, we are like, oh, all the public spaces should be made for all. So we put every color around the lake, but in reality, that doesn't happen, right? So my 3 years where I spent explaining that you can actually design one building if you want with 3 different entrances so that people don't have to talk, but at least when they come down, they all get the benefit of staying next to the lake and a high street. So as an architect, we can actually find our own creative ways of helping different income people, different genders to come together and stay. So this is what the project was about, to make people understand the scales of greens and how people can stay together. Next. So this is one of the big outcomes that we have got. Unlike Bombay, Naya Raipur actually got TOD as a part of their development plan. This is how it looked before, where the front offset was 15 meters, they reduced it to 1 meter. We actually asked for 0, but it went to 1. They have an entire chapter on TOD in their DP. So some things like this are something which I call as an outcome. So to convince the CEO to do this is something that I would actually encourage people to work for. To have such kind of indication, to have such kind of very, very pedestrian-oriented development in your DP. Again, one small interesting thing, while working with Naya Raipur, since it was my second government agency to work for after MIDC and MMRDA, I was always told, government agencies, corruption, people don't listen. And you are a woman, 26-year-old, what are you going to do? So when I entered on day 1, they actually thought I was an intern, a trainee sent by an NGO, who are probably very poor. They're hiring trainees to get their work done. So that's how I entered. And when I was talking about TOD, they were like, बेटी ये क्या कर रहे हो मतलब रखो इधर. So with that level, so I entered NRDA in January 2012, and when I left in May 2013, I was called as Neha Madam. Please see all the 7 other sectors along with your sector, and please help the entire city to be TOD. And that's how you see this other sector. So we designed only 31, and these other 4 sectors were also become TOD. And now the TOD concept will be held in all other sectors. So that's the entire training that happened. And I would also like to thank one institution where I teach in Rachna Sansad in Masters. So if people have heard, the Masters students are at the are of the age of my father and beyond that. So when someone like me goes to teach, they come up with their own ego that, who is this person, half of my age, coming to tell me what I should be doing? So if you speak to the HODs of the colleges, they will tell you how many complaints have gone against me, where I'm trying to only discipline them, saying, keep your voice down. I know more than you. You know, you are experienced, but your principles are at fault. So it takes me 6 months to just convince them, keep your ego down. And after 6 months is where we get the work done. So through this, going to a place like this, where there are Bhojpuri speaking officers, age 47 to 87, telling them, listen, you are right, but do this as well. So that's how Naya Raipur happened. Next. One interesting thing that I am also engaged right now in my company is we are designing these games for stakeholder consultations. Stakeholder as in, for example, if your cooperative society wants to design a cycling track or you want to do a neighborhood improvement plan, what is the first thing that happens? We do not even have 50% agreement on it. We are not even talking to our neighbors, and let alone your neighbor, entire locality agreeing to one simple thing. We designed a board game. An architect coming and designing a board game. What does it look at the scar? So we are saying, so whatever. So if you want a park or street lights or anything, so we have jotted everything that anyone wants to do in a neighborhood plan design. And we had put it like, we have a phase written, so what takes long term, what is short term. Then there are expenses, like street lights may be expensive, putting flower plants could be cheaper, so things like that. Then we ask those people to come together, sit on a table, and prioritize. You have got this much of funding, you have got this much of time, tell us what will you do. This actually enables them to understand, oh, so our demands are actually not that real. Our demands can actually be negotiated if we plan it well. So these are the things. So what we are doing is we are making people talk, we are making people understand and prioritize their work. This is actually now this particular workshop was done last year in Delhi, and this was taken ahead by Arvind Kejriwal, and the Mohalla Samiti network will be using this method to design their own neighborhoods. So something like this can be done to any one of you. Can use games as a method to design your neighborhoods. And as a professor, and also as there are principals over here, I would also encourage you to go ahead and encourage your students to do non-building but building-enabled theses. This is what we require right now. We require people, we require architects who can go out and convince. We have so many great designers in academics, but when they go out, they can't talk. And if you cannot convince, you design something which was not even in your head. So these are the things that we require currently. This is another game that we had done, which is called as role play, where they even understand who does what. Like, when we are voting, we don't even know does he belong to, what is his power, so what are we even supposed to ask? So this is another game that we did. Next. So apart from this work, as I said, I have not built anything, but this kind of work which I did is super frustrating because it takes 7 years to get one line in the DP. So what do I do is, and throughout my entire conversations with all the stakeholders, citizens, I have always felt that, there